You're not on the list, ma'am. The sentence landed harder than it should have. I stared at the young officer outside the Fort Highland ballroom, my formal invitation still in hand, the name Leona Miller printed in crisp gold lettering. It was my brother's promotion ceremony, Major Brandon Miller, rising star of the 82nd Airborne, and this card had come from Central Command. It wasn't a +1, it wasn't a maybe, it was printed, personalized. But apparently, that wasn't enough. "I'm his sister," I said, trying to keep my voice from cracking. "I'm Lieutenant Colonel Leona Miller, Army Intelligence." He didn't even look at the card. "Sorry, ma'am, your name's not in the system." Through the glass doors behind him, I could see everything. My father adjusting Brandon's medals, my mother laughing like it was Thanksgiving, and my brother surrounded by a wall of pride I had never been allowed behind. The table was full, not a single empty seat, and no one noticed I wasn't there. That's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. This was erasure. I didn't scream. I didn't demand anything. I just folded the invitation in half and slipped it into my pocket like a receipt for something I'd never get refunded. I walked back to my car in heels that suddenly felt absurd, the echo of them clicking against the concrete like a metronome counting out my irrelevance. Inside the car, I stared out the windshield, hands clenched on the wheel, body numb. This wasn't the first time. Growing up, Brandon was the golden boy. First to walk, first to speak, first to get a trophy, a scholarship, a commission. Our parents, especially my father, a retired Navy captain, treated him like legacy carved in stone. I was always just the shadow, quiet, careful. I remember once in high school bringing home straight A's and a leadership award. My dad's response? "Well, your brother got 2 of those last year." I didn't cry then either. I joined the military not to compete with Brandon, but to finally matter on my own terms. I chose intel over command because I was better in the shadows, methodical, accurate, unshakable. I led missions that no one talked about but everyone depended on. I collected commendations, stitched up lives with plans no one saw. But I was still invisible where it counted most. A few weeks ago, I submitted a white paper on ethical drone protocols that was quietly absorbed into Brandon's project at Central Command. He presented it at a Pentagon roundtable, with my name removed. "You don't really like the spotlight anyway, right?" he had said, flashing that politician's smile he always wore like armor. I hadn't planned to confront him tonight. I thought maybe, just maybe, seeing me show up in dress blues would remind them that I existed, that I had earned my seat at the table. But apparently, you can serve your country with distinction and still not be welcome in your own bloodline. My phone buzzed. A photo notification. Brandon with Dad. Captioned, "Proud day for the Millers." Not all of them. I deleted it, no hesitation. And then I made a decision. I wouldn't just walk away. I'd rebuild somewhere they couldn't edit me out again. Not quietly, not this time. That night, as the laughter behind the glass continued without me, I whispered to myself, "You didn't take me off the list. You just gave me reason to make my own. If you've ever been overlooked after giving everything you had, type 1. Operation timeline has been updated. Deployment moved up to 22:30 hours. I stared at the screen in the briefing tent, jaw clenched. The words blinked back at me like a joke I wasn't in on. What the hell happened to ZO 200 hours? That was the time I had planned for, aligned with the satellite's thermal coverage window, full darkness, minimal risk. I had walked through that timeline like a surgeon prepping for open heart. Down to the second, the breath. Now it was gone. Behind me, footsteps. "You saw the update?" a familiar voice said. I turned. Major Brandon Miller, my brother, my ghost, the same man who smiled through every betrayal. "You changed the op time," I said flatly. He raised an eyebrow, almost amused. "No. Command adjusted based on urgency. Intel's fluid. You know that." I stepped closer, voice low. "You whispered into the right ears. That's not urgency. That's ego." He gave a tight chuckle. "Leona, not everything's about you. We don't always get to wait for perfect conditions." "No," I said, voice hard. "We get to wait for safe conditions. That's my job. Recon is built on timing. You pushed us into the dark without coverage." His eyes narrowed. "Careful, Lieutenant Colonel. You're suggesting I overstepped. I stared at him. No, I'm saying you undercut me. He held up his hands mockingly. Fine, don't trust me. But if the op goes well, you'll take credit anyway, right? I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. Hours later, we moved out. The air was thick. The jungle terrain knotted and unpredictable. My team followed every signal, every formation I had drilled into them. No noise, no lights, no mistakes. And then it happened. Just past the third ridge, a shimmer in the dirt. Wrong kind of reflection. Down! I shouted, but it was too late. The blast hit like a thunderclap. Fire, smoke, screams, a second explosion, then silence, broken only by the sound of my heart slamming against my ribs and the static in my earpiece. I found Corporal Dean 10 feet ahead, half his vest melted, chest heaving. He looked up at me like I was supposed to fix this. I tried. God, I tried. But the bleeding didn't stop. He died in my hands before the medevac bird could land. Debrief came fast, cold, a panel of 3, one tape recorder blinking red. Why authorize early deployment, Lieutenant Colonel? I answered like a ghost. Advised window had narrowed. By whom? I hesitated. Every cell in me screamed, say his name. But technically, Brandon hadn't ordered anything. He'd just suggested, implied, manipulated. Major Miller, I said. Silence. And what authority did he have over field deployment? None, I whispered. They didn't need to say anything else. I knew the script. Blame is weightless until it finds a name to land on. The suspension came in a cold email. 4 lines. No apology. Brandon didn't call, didn't message, didn't show up to testify. His career? Untouched. He even got promoted 2 weeks later. Mine? Vanished overnight. I packed my gear in silence, folded my name patch like a flag, and left the base by bus. Nobody stopped me. Nobody asked why. But I wasn't done. 3 weeks later, a message landed in my inbox. Anonymous sender. 1 line, check the satellite logs. Attached, a secure link. I clicked, and what I saw made my blood go cold. The original window, the one I planned for, was still valid. The satellite coverage had not changed. Brandon had lied. And now, I had proof. If you've ever been manipulated into falling while they walked away clean, type 2. Subject, case 20987 OPSP. I opened the email without breathing. The Office of Military Ethics has reviewed your submitted documentation. Your disciplinary action has been fully rescinded. Your record has been cleared. You are eligible to return. I read it twice, then a third time. The cursor blinked beneath those 4 sentences like a silent verdict. 3 months of digging, cross-referencing satellite logs, comparing timeline drafts, tracking down off-the-record chat logs, piecing together whispers Brandon thought would stay buried. I hadn't expected this. Not really. When I sent the file, no cover letter, no plea, just a line that read, "Truth matters even when no one's watching." I did it as a last act of self-respect. I didn't think the system would answer, but it had. And now the only question left was, did I want to go back? The first day back, I didn't wear anything new. No dramatic haircut, no shiny epaulets, just the same uniform I'd once folded like a burial flag. The base was different. New state, new command. Fresh eyes who didn't know my story, and I liked it that way. They assigned me a locker, a small office, a minor logistics unit. No one asked about the suspension. No one whispered. I was just another officer, for now. But I led my new team the way I always had. Precise, measured, no theatrics. I didn't need applause. I needed purpose. And slowly, quietly, they noticed. A junior lieutenant called me ma'am, without sarcasm. A logistics coordinator requested to be reassigned under my command. Rumors started, good ones. She's the one who rebuilt a unit in 2 weeks. She doesn't miss details. She listens. The first commendation came like snowfall, quiet, unexpected, soft, then another, then a promotion. Months passed. Then one day, a message arrived from Central Command. Encrypted. High priority. Subject, 75th Anniversary Gala, 12th Infantry Division. My old division, the one that investigated me, the one that let my brother walk free. I almost deleted it until I saw the last line. Guest of honor, General Leona Miller. The breath left my lungs like an overdue confession. Below my name, Colonel Raymond Miller, Major Brandon Miller, my father, my brother, and me. This time, not forgotten. This time, projected 10 feet tall. I arrived 2 hours early, not out of nervousness, out of strategy. I walked through the grand repurposed armory where they'd replaced steel beams with chandeliers. Eyes followed, not out of scandal, out of recognition. My uniform was regulation perfect. The 4 stars on my collar caught the light just enough. I didn't have to say a word for the room to rearrange around me. When my name was announced, it didn't come with fanfare. It came with weight. A leader who returned not from exile, but from endurance. A name once overlooked, now impossible to ignore. I took the stage. The crowd stood. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. I just spoke. I wasn't supposed to be here, not because I lacked the qualifications, but because someone decided I didn't belong. But I didn't walk away. I rebuilt. I looked directly at my family in the back row. My father's posture faltered. My mother's hands trembled. Brandon looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. This medal isn't redemption. It's recognition. I didn't ask for revenge. I asked for my place. Applause followed, full and real. But I raised my hand gently, and the room quieted. I stand here not because I was believed. I stand here because I refused to disappear. Afterward, they approached. Brandon spoke first. You could have destroyed me. I met his eyes. You did that yourself. He opened his mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to apologize, but I stepped past him, not with anger, but with clarity. You chose silence. I chose truth. That's the difference between us. If you've ever reclaimed your power after being erased, type 3.